Hi, everyone. My name is Kenan Sayers. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Psychology in the clinical science area at Michigan State University. And today I will be continuing presenting on caregiver stress and support. So I will specifically be talking about some physical coping strategies. So first, I wanted to talk a little bit about movement. Our bodies were designed to move, right? But movement doesn't have to be unpleasant, punishing, or done to alter our shape or weight. A lot of times people, when they think about movement, they just think about exercise, and there are certain, connotations with exercise of, it being very goal oriented, wanting to improve your body, improve your shape, and that can have certain connotations for different people. But really, one thing that we can just focus on is just moving our bodies, right? And that doesn't have to be, in a punishing way, done to alter our shape, our physique, but it can just be done simply for the fact that, it's good to move our bodies, right? There are a bunch of benefits to moving our bodies, right? It lubricates our joints, it improves our mobility and flexibility, strengthens our muscles, and increases our cardiorespiratory capacity, and our endurance. And movement can also be a radical act of self-care, right? Kind of like giving yourself the time to move your body in some way, whatever way, works for you that you enjoy. And can also be a time for you to, be present and recharge, be in the present moment and give yourself, some time to just recharge. So kind of as I was alluding to earlier, right? Like movement can be joyful, it can be challenging, and or it could be social. It could be any of these things. And it's important to find forms of movement that feel good to you and your body, right? And this might vary day to day. One day you might want to run a little bit. One day you might want to do yoga. One day you might want to go on a walk with a friend, right? Movement, can look like a variety of different things, and can also kind of like tap into some of these things, right? Joyful, challenging, social. It can function to kind of like support you in whatever way you kind of like feel on a given day. And so here's just some questions to consider, right? So like what types of movement do I most enjoy, right? Is that playing on a team-based sports? Maybe that's like pickleball. Maybe that's in a recreational, softball league or basketball league, right? Do you prefer individual activities? Maybe you prefer to go on a walk by yourself. Maybe you prefer to go cycling. Maybe you prefer to do yoga by yourself. Maybe you prefer to do, some other types of move, go to the gym and work out by yourself. Those are all kind of, all different types of activities, but ways to move your body. Um, what settings do I like to move in? Do you like to be outside? Do you like to be in a fitness group? Do you like to move at home? There are a bunch of different settings that you can also, move in. And again, those different settings might, tap into some of these different, joyful, challenging, social. Some settings might overlap. Some settings you might think, are more conducive to certain types of movement. Do you like to do solo movement or does it feel better when done with others, right? Again, alluding to some of the things I said before. Movement can be a social thing. Movement can be something that you do on your own. And depending on the day, you might choose that one might be better for your body and for you than another day. And that's totally fine. Is my body asking for something gentle, or do I want to really get my heart pumping today, right? What is your body telling you? What do you think would be helpful for you that day? Maybe it's something lighter. Maybe it's something that you want the challenge. You want to kind of like get your heart pumping. And again, all this can vary day by day. And there's not one right or wrong way to move your body. It's really just about like what you feel like your body needs on a given day, and what can really help you the most. It can look like a bunch of different things. One thing about the outdoors, it's great to spend time outdoors. I know, we're up here in Michigan, so, it's pretty cold for, a lot of the year, but, when you can get outdoors, it's always great. Um, and, exposure to green and blue spaces actually do promote mental health. I know, the term green spaces are thrown around, having a lot of plants. Maybe you have a room in your house that's like has a lot of plants, right? And people say, oh, green spaces. I know here on college campuses, for example, the green spaces in terms of like the quads and stuff, a lot of outdoor space. So green and blue spaces are really good for mental health because they actually signal to us, right, just evolutionarily, right? Blue, water, a resource that we all need to survive. And green, right, if you're, just biologically in a green space, that means it's very rich, it's very healthy. There's typically, associated with a lot of plants, just kind of like evolutionarily. So just being in green and blue spaces actually signals to our bodies, kind of like, implicitly, not on purpose, just kind of like by being in green and blue spaces, signals to our body that, this is a lush, a good place to be, right? So really being out in green and blue spaces can really just kind of signal again to our bodies that this is a safe space, a good space, a thriving space, and therefore like, helping our body kind of feel more relaxed, to feel more kind of like, energized. Bird song too. This is an interesting one, right? You may know this from, notice this from personal experience. You may notice this from watching the movies, right? Um, a lot of times when things are not going right, there's no birds, there's no wildlife. Things get quiet, right? Um, on the other hand, when you hear a lot of birds chirping, when you hear, a lot of sounds of nature, again, that can kind of signal to your body that, this is a safe space, right? There are, other things here. There are birds again. That bird song signals to us that, we are in a safe space. And so being out in nature, we get that bird song just kind of naturally. And what's really cool, there's this app that actually my family has used before. It's a Merlin Bird ID app. And this is a cool app because what you can do, you can pull up in your phone. Let's say you're walking outside. You can pull up in your phone, have it kind of playing, and it will listen to all the bird songs in the area that it's picking up on, and it will ID them. And so you can be walking around your neighborhood with this kind of app open. It's listening, and it can basically show you like what birds you've kind of been around. And it will play you the specific clips that there are specific birds, songs, so you can play it, and then you can kind of like identify, oh, that's this bird, And I think that that's a really cool app that I've used personally in the past, just to kind of one, it can help you build awareness of bird song, right? Like it can help you. I think a lot of times we walk outside and we think, oh, all bird songs, they all kind of like mesh together. But it could actually be, look, actually, no, you're listening to different types of birds, hear the different kind of sounds, kind of like building that awareness, helping you be kind of like more present, can always be great. And I think it's just a cool thing to kind of learn about the birds that are in your area. And so walking in the woods, for example, this is sometimes called forest bathing, or on the beach, kind of like anywhere you can kind of get outside, is great. And lastly, I'll kind of touch on sleep hygiene. It's typically recommended to go to sleep and wake up around the same time every day, including weekends. I know this is hard to do, and I know that this is, there are some exceptions here, but trying to, working on sticking to a pretty regular sleep schedule can help kind of align your sleep rhythm and allow you to get better quality sleep because your body kind of knows when to fall asleep, when to wake up on a given day. Having a pre-bed routine before going to bed can also kind of like help prepare your body psychologically for sleep. And you can be preparing your body physically for sleep, but I think and we know from science too that having actually a routine helps you prepare psychologically as well for sleep. So whether that be like washing your face, brushing your teeth, having a similar routine before you go to sleep each night can again get your body psychologically in the mindset that like, okay, oh, I'm winding down. Maybe that also means like reading in bed for 10 to 15 minutes um, can all kind of like help you kind of like initiate sleep. Keeping your room on a relatively cooler side, so about 66 degrees, is also has been shown to help sleep as well. If you sleep in a room that's too cool, it'll be too cold for your body, but if it's too warm, it's too warm. So about 66, slightly on the cooler side, can also be just a more comfortable environment for your body to begin to fall into sleep. And then try to limit screens before bed, typically at least an hour before going to sleep. Exposure to light can actually delay the release of melatonin. That's a hormone that helps initiate sleep. And so, you know, the greater amount of time that you can spend away from screens or even bright lights. I know it's also recommended to, potentially like dim some of the lights, start to dim some of the lights about an hour before you go to bed. And that's just kind of like the lights in your house. That can help again, help release the melatonin and not delay that because if you're on screens right before you hit the mattress, um your retinas are actually still active from having received the light stimulus, and so it delays the release of melatonin. And so if we can try to make things dimmer, make things darker earlier, by the time you hit the bed, your head's on the pillow, it'll be closer to the release of the melatonin that will help kind of like initiate that sleep. And so that's why the screens and the light particularly, it's really having to do with the receptors in the retinas and having that be related to the release of melatonin. Um, so that's all I have for you. I hope you found this helpful. Um, Really also recommend this, sorry, recommend this book, Why We Sleep. If anybody's interested, really great research on sleep. So recommend that one. But thanks for listening. And again, I hope you got something out of it. And yeah.